All right, our top focus will be on right now. U.S. President Donald Trump says that the United States has scheduled talks with Iran. This as Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has said that he believes Tehran can resolve its differences with the United States of America through dialogue. The U.S. Special Envoy to West Asia, Steve Witkoff, said that the talks could be held in the next week or so. This will be the first round of nuclear talks between Washington and Tehran since last month's war between Israel and Iran, which lasted for around 12 days. Trump also said that he would love to remove tough U.S. sanctions on Iran at the right time to give them a chance at rebuilding the country. He was asked about Iran during his White House meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
We have with Iran is, we have they call biting, they are very biting sanctions. And I would love to be able to, at the right time, take those sanctions off, give them a chance at rebuilding, because I'd like to see Iran build itself back up in a peaceful manner and not going around saying death to America, death to the USA, death to Israel, as they were doing. They were the bully of the Middle East, and now they're not the bully anymore.
A sixth round of talks between the U.S. and Iran was scheduled on June 15th, but Israel launched airstrikes on Iranian military, nuclear and civilian sites on June 13th. The 12-day conflict between Israel and Iran ended with a U.S.-backed ceasefire that took effect on June 24th. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has said he believes Iran can resolve its differences with the United States of America through dialogue, but he had admitted that trust would be an issue after U.S. and Israeli attacks on his country. Pezeshkian was speaking to U.S. media personality Tucker Carlson in his first major interview with Western media since the war.
I would like to once again repeat that the United States President, Mr. Trump, he's capable enough to guide the region towards a peace and a brighter future and put Israel in its place, or get into a pit, an endless pit or a swamp. And that is a war that Netanyahu wants the United States or the U.S. president to be dragged into. So it is up to the United States president to choose which path that I told you about.
Pezeshkian also claimed that Israel attempted to assassinate him during last month's 12-day conflict. He said that the Israeli forces targeted the location of a high-level meeting he was attending.
How are you certain they tried to kill you?
Of course, it was not the U.S. that was behind my the attempt on my life. It was Israel. I was in a meeting. We were discussing the ways to move forward, but thanks to the intelligence by the spies that they had, they tried to bombard the area that we were holding that meeting.
And well, joining us live from Tehran is Dr. Saeed Imamian, Assistant Professor at Tehran Polytechnic, founder and former director of the Governance and Policy think tank. Welcome to WION, Dr. Imamian. First up, of course, Trump has signaled a possible de-escalation with Iran at this point of time, saying that it is open to lifting sanctions on Tehran at the right time. How is that being perceived in Iran?
First of all, I would like to a little bit contextualize the situation. Trump's claim now is based on a long history of the mistrust and distrust. Set aside the several previous U.S. governments and presidents that they have been always against any kind of the agreement with Iran. You remember that during the U.S. attacks on Afghanistan, there was a very close cooperation between Iranians and Americans in defeating the terrorism and radicalism at the time. But at the end of the day, there was the U.S. that pulled out from a kind of the agreement or cooperation with Iran. But President Trump himself's withdrawal from GCPOA in 2018, and the way that he managed the last phase of the negotiation has been to some extent widely seen in Iran as a betrayal to the diplomacy, as was phrased by the Iranian foreign minister. So I think any new claim needs a lot of trust building, particularly that as far as I have talked with the Iranian policymakers now, it seems that they are wide.
All right, there seems to be some technical glitch with our guest there. I'll just complete what he was trying to say. He's saying that the trust factor will perhaps play a major role in the US-Iran nuclear talks going forward. This, of course, comes after US President Donald Trump signaled a possible de-escalation. And we have Dr. Imamian back here with us. Yes, Dr. Imamian, please continue what you were saying.
I was saying that it is a long history of the distrust and mistrust. And the way that Mr. Trump managed the previous phase of the talks was seen widely in Iran as betrayal to the diplomacy.
Okay.
So if he is keen to revive the talks, I think it needs a lot of trust building process. Because as far as I have talked to Iranian policymakers, they believe widely now that President Trump was aware of the attacks that was planned by the Israelis in the June 13th. So, and particularly, you remember that during the war, there was a Mr. Trump that he posted unconditional surrender with black words. So there was a quite different position than the de-escalation position and the ceasefire request that he made a few days afterwards, because he was thinking, because his foreign policy was highly hijacked by the Israelis under Benjamin Netanyahu, and he had assured Trump that he is going to win the war. But winning the battle,
Right. So we hear you. You're saying that the trust factor will play a major role when officials and diplomats from US and Iran sit down, perhaps next week. That's what Steve Witkoff has said. But I want to also talk to you about that there are multiple voices in Iran that are possibly calling the Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian a soft voice for perhaps holding talks with the United States of America. What do you have to say on that?
Again, you need to understand the Iranian context that is very much distrusting the Trump. So President Pezeshkian's approach is consistent with the Iranian foreign policy in the last few years during the GCPOA, that Iran has always been open to dialogue. And always Iran has been very much outspoken about his nuclear civil program that is not going to reach out to any kind of the nuclear weaponization. So Iran has been consistently open to this kind of the dialogue, as long as the target of dialogue is to ensure that Iran's nuclear program is going to keep civilized. But if there is another more ambitious targets, like what was said during the war as kind of the regime change or dividing Iran, it would be something that is not, to some extent, very much opposed by all Iranian and has unified Iranian against this kind of the political mandates. So I think President Trump needs to be very much clear and honest about the target of the talks and dialogues. And President Pezeshkian has been very much consistent in his approach, while his political approach has been, as you mentioned, to some extent criticized by a group of the politicians and some parts of the society in Iran, because they are thinking that after such kind of the called betrayal to the diplomacy, we can't trust President Trump anymore. So President Pezeshkian has been officially open to dialogue, but it needs to a kind of the precondition that the U.S. could guarantee that they are going to be independent in their foreign policy rather than being hijacked by the Benjamin Netanyahu, and they are going to guarantee that the talks is going to be honest and to be meaningful.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Imamian, for joining us here on WION and sharing insights with us.